Hi, and welcome back to the International Kindness Festival 2021. Our next speaker is Annabel Daly. Annabel is the Director of Research and Marketing at Oxford University Press. She runs a program called Bold Goals that help women create positive change in their lives. Annabel is here to talk about why personal goal setting is important and why it's important for you to set your goals that help the world as well. Annabel, over to you.
Hi there, and thank you so much, Suresh. It's lovely to be here this morning. I'm in the morning now, I'm in Oxford in the UK, and I'm so honoured to be part of the International Kindness Festival this year. And I really hope all of you who are joining us live and or maybe after the fact have had some fantastic engagement and interactions with the content already. So yes, what am I going to be talking about? Well, I'm doing a bit of a prelude to my workshop, which is coming up following this talk at 5 o'clock India time, all about goal setting. So goal setting is something I feel really passionately about, but specifically, I feel like it's really important that you really understand yourself before you set your goals in order that you can make your goals sustainable. And what I mean by sustainable in this particular situation is sustainable for you. Because if you set goals, you want to make sure that you're going to stick to them. And this is the single biggest problem, I think, with goal setting or New Year's resolution setting, however you want to describe it, setting a project up and making sure it continues, is how do you stay connected to that goal and passionate about that goal for the long term until the end. So the title of my talk today is Goal Setting from the Inside Out. So making sure that you are really connected to your goal on the inside. So that's your beliefs, your passions, and your passions are also things that you're potentially angry about and want to fix, but also your core values, your strengths, your drivers, the things that are really fueling that energy to get your goal done. And I believe it's only then when you are setting goals from yourself, from the inside out, that you can really go out and best serve your communities. So whether your communities are your neighbors, your friends, your family, your work, your teams, the projects that you're embarking on, and then even, the world, your country and the world. If you are thinking first about what you need to do to sustain yourself and making sure that you're setting those goals from the inside out, you're in a better position to help the world. Okay, so what does that look like? Well, I'm going to give you a whistle stop tour now for the next sort of 10 minutes or so. But then, as I said, I really encourage you to come to our workshop at 5 o'clock, and we'll spend a lot more time really delving into what's under the surface in your own goal setting, whether it's something you're currently working on or an idea you have for the future. So, sustainable goals for you, that's what this is all about. So how do you start to unpick what a sustainable goal for you looks like? Well, I believe that we have inside us an internal compass. So this is how you make decisions when you're out in the world, how you face choices, of which there are a growing infinite number of things you could do with your time and your energy. And how, when you interact with people, how you choose who to collaborate with, who to help, maybe who to avoid sometimes, because opportunities and challenges are around every corner. And sometimes, you have to navigate those. Things might pop up that look like a good idea on paper, but do they really fit with your purpose, your mission, where you're headed? So this idea of having an internal compass and tuning that internal compass, it's a work in progress, I believe really helps you navigate those choices that you meet when opportunities and challenges, and as we know, challenges are everywhere and that, not always in our control. So when you meet those, it helps you make decisions, hopefully the right decisions, But even if it doesn't help you make the right decision, then it helps you deal with the fallout of that. So this concept of tuning into your internal compass. Now, there are some really simple questions on paper that you can ask yourself. These questions are so simple, and they're things that I'm sure you've asked yourself at one time or another. And on the surface of things, you might be able to answer them just like that. And this is what we're going to do in the next few minutes. But the more you spend time with these questions, the deeper you can go. And that's when the real magic happens, I think. That's when you can start to see patterns in the choices you've made to date, but also start to plan the direction for your future. So I'm going to give you a few of these questions now. So if you have a notepad or something nearby, or even just in your mind, have a think about what the first thing that springs to mind is when I ask you these questions. It's an interesting thing to start to explore together before we get into the detail in the workshop. So here are the questions. Not particularly groundbreaking, but very important questions. So number one, what is important to me? What is important to me in my life? What is the what are the things that spring immediately to the front of mind when I ask myself that question? Now, I know many people will start thinking, what do you mean important? Important in what context? We'll have lots of follow-up questions in response to that what's important to me question. But I will gently suggest, don't ask questions on this, just see what comes to mind straight away. Write down a few things that pop up. These are the things that are literally at the top and the surface of your brain, in your mind, when you think, what's important to me? And that's actually a really important insight. So perhaps jot down a few ideas that are springing to mind when you ask yourself, what's important to me? I'm not going to give you too many examples because I don't want to lead you here. What we're doing when we ask ourselves what's important to me is we're starting to tap into our core values. These are the non-negotiables. These are the things that often, if you experience any conflict in your life, if you come up against someone and you're just really not getting on, there's something sort of not happening in your communication or the way that you're behaving together, there may well be a core value conflict. Something might be going on with the other person that's sort of bashing up against your core values. So that's a really good question to ask yourself and a really interesting one to explore further. Okay, I'm going to move on to the second question. So this is another one. This is a really nice one. What do I like to do? And again, you might have lots of questions following on from what do I like to do. Don't overthink it. What do you like to do in the world? This isn't necessarily work. This is your life. What do you like to do? What do you really enjoy? What are you doing when you forget the time? Often these things, a wonderful exercise for these things is to go back to when you were 7 years old, if you can remember back that far, and really think about sort of the probably quite simple things you did that you really enjoyed. So what do you like to do? And it might be, depending on how hard you're working and how committed to others you are in your life, that you've forgotten what it is you like to do. So really try to think in the nicest possible way, think selfishly about this. What is it you as an individual like to do? So maybe write a few ideas down just to get the creative juices flowing. We're starting to look introspectively inside our minds, which is going to be really helpful for the workshop. So just notice what's come up there. No judgment at all. This is 100% you, everything is allowed. All right, let's move on to the next question. So this question, again, it's a simple question, but it might be one that you find quite difficult to answer, or maybe not, we'll see. So here's the question. What am I good at? What am I good at? Now, this is different to what do I like to do. You might have things on both lists, but what you're good at is what are skills, talents that you have perhaps developed over time. And often how you know you're good at something, you might be very modest and think, I'm not really good at anything. And of course, that's not true. But this is sometimes the mindset that we get into. But these are often the things that your friends or your colleagues, your family, or even complete strangers might tell you. You can hear this through feedback that you might get in response to some work you're doing, or some interactions you've had. So what are you good at? What are you known for, perhaps, amongst your colleagues and co-workers and friends? What am I good at? And I hope you're writing a few things down. I hope a few things spring to mind. And if something has sprung to mind, or multiple things have sprung to mind, write them down. Don't self-edit. Don't, something will pop in. You'll go to write it down and you'll think, oh, no, I don't think I'm very good at that. So-and-so is better. Or actually, the last time I did that, no, it didn't work out. This is where imposter syndrome lurks, and lots of, your brain self-editing and starting to shame you. So try not to listen to any editing that happens. Keep writing down the things you're good at. And in the workshop that follows, I'll give you some more strategies around how you can grow the list of things that you're good at in terms of your awareness. There'll be a lot of things you're good at. Okay. So then the final question for now, just to keep the brain working, keep the self-reflection happening to get us into this space for good goal setting. And this is actually a big question, and perhaps a question that we're all contemplating as we move through the Kindness Festival, and also out into the world and into our lives outside of this conference. What does the world need from me? So all of a sudden, this question might need a bit more thinking. But again, it's interesting to see what comes up quickly. What are the first things you think of? What does the world need from me? You might want to start with what does the world need, full stop. But then the from need bit is important. And what we'll do in the workshop is we're gonna start to draw some sort of connections between all of these things that we've been brainstorming about ourselves, and then what the world needs. Certainly, I think what the world needs right now is hope, kindness, lots of kindness. But it also needs people who are great at organizing. It needs people with humor. It needs people with critical thinking skills. There are so many things the world needs, but it's really good for you, from your worldview, to start to write lists and ideas about what the world needs, because they're going to be different. There's going to be a lot of similarities, I'm sure, between your list and my list, but there might also be some differences. And of course, that's where a lot of the diversity and the magic really, really lies. And when we ask ourselves that question, what does the world need from me? Of course, that's a big question. The world, needs a lot of things. Another way you can look at this is to start to shrink the community size that you're dealing with. So you can also ask the question, what does my team need from me? What does my community that I'm supporting, that I'm serving, need from me? What does my family need from me? What does my organization need from me? What do my neighbors need from me? Whatever community you're looking at, you can switch out the world, but the world is a good one because there will be some universal things in that question that will also apply, I'm sure, to your neighbors, your friends, your team, your organization, your communities. So lots of good questions there. Well, four questions, quite simple on paper, but interesting to delve into. The final thing before we head to questions, I just want to a concept I want to let you know about is ripples. So you make ripples in the world. We all make ripples in the world, like you've been dropped into a pond and the ripples that come out. So make sure that your ripples are fueled by something strong for you, something you believe in, something you've really thought about, because those ripples are going to impact the people in your communities and the people, and obviously that will ripple out into the wider world. So make sure you're thinking consciously about that, so that then that impact can be intentional and positive, and you will feel very, very connected to it. And then others around will pick up on those ripples, and that will infect their ripples. So I think I'm going to leave it there, because we've got a lot more to talk about in the workshop, but hopefully that's given you a taste. I think we've got a few minutes left. If there are any questions, I would love to take them.
Yes, Annabel. Why is it so hard to stick to goals and New Year resolutions?
That is the multi-million dollar pound rupee question, isn't it? Wow. I think a lot of people set goals and resolutions that aren't connected to what's important for them. For example, they see other people doing things and they think, I should do that. And I'm sure many of you are aware, whenever you hear the word should, you really have to ask yourself if it's your goal, if it's driven by your passions, your values, your beliefs, or whether you're just trying to fit in with the social norm. And I think people, again, this is something we're going to cover in the workshop. I'm sure many people have heard of Simon Sinek. He does a lot of work on the question why, which is one of my favorite questions. But if you ask yourself, when you're setting a goal of any kind or a resolution, why am I doing this? And keep asking why until you get to the real answer. So for example, you might be like, right, I'm gonna, I need to lose some weight, as a classic one. Why? And when you dig down to what that really is, it might be something like, I want to, be around to spend time with my grandchildren, or I want to be able to actually keep up with them, when they're running around in the garden, or I want to feel healthier, I want to feel lighter. But you really have to connect to that. If you're not connecting to that, if you're just like, oh, I've always tried to do it, I need to try it again, you're not deeply, deeply connected to it. And other priorities will come in and you'll just scoot it to the side.
Right. Okay, last question before we let you go. Sometimes it's hard for us to understand why.
Yes.
For instance, if you say on a New Year resolution, I'm going to get fit and I'm going to get a six-pack because
yes.
all my favorite Bollywood heroes have one, or other people have one. I just want one. What if it's sometimes hard to get to understand why? Maybe it's just something big inside you. Maybe it's something to do with your childhood. What if it's hard to get to why?
I would definitely recommend, if you're in a situation where you're really struggling with this, to make goals with people. Because what you can do when you make goals with people is you can hold each other to account, but you can also ask these questions why. And it's so much easier to be asked why from someone else. So you can sit in your room and be like, why do I want to do this? Or why I want to look like my Bollywood idols. But that's not really a why. Yeah, you have to go deeper. But it's very hard for you to go deep on your own, because you'll resist, you'll kind of deny, you won't go there. If you've got someone opposite you in real life or on Zoom or something who is just probing and gently, asking why again and again, and if it's someone that you've got rapport with and is trusted, then you're much more likely to sort of talk, and they can reflect back. Almost a coaching relationship will really help with this, but you've got to really want to understand, and you've got to be willing to go there as well. Then it will unlock for you, but it's often these things are beneath the surface, which is why it's important to do things like spend time really reflecting. So we can try it in our next session.
All right, Annabel Daly, we look forward to the Ikigai workshop that you're going to be doing later today. I'll tell you more about the workshop in just a minute, but we have our next speaker here. So it's time for me to thank you, Annabel, and wish you all the best for your workshop.
See you soon.